Are you travelling to Bali? Not sure where to start? I've got the top 6 things I wish I'd known the first time I travelled to Bali. Even if you're a regular traveller, some of these tips may be new to you. I'm Steve from FORBO'S Adventures and I travel regularly to Bali. I try and cut to the chase and give you the best of what I know about Bali with no fluff and no hype. Number 1 tip, travel insurance. Make sure you have it. You can get it free through your credit cards. A lot of banks offer this service. One of my friends actually made a major claim recently through the Bendigo card. They actually got back about 18 grand. So the travel insurance through credit cards does work. If you're not sure about the credit card side of things, take a decent policy and make sure you cover off the things that you're going to be doing. So if you are motorbike riding, make sure you cover that, because there's nothing worse than getting to the point where you make a claim and something comes up that you hadn't covered. The other big thing that's really important, make sure you cover off your pre-existing injury. It is important to declare them. The travel insurance companies do take these seriously. So if you do have any underlying medical conditions, make sure you put them in there. Yeah, it's probably going to cost you a bit more for your insurance, but that's life. If you're not covered and you need to be expatriated, that's going to be a hell of a bigger issue than declaring your pre-existing injuries. So get them covered, make sure your policy's in place, and travel with safety and a bit of peace of mind. Tip number 2, get your visas in line. They're very easy to do online, but there's quite a few scam websites out there. If you just type in Bali visa, you will find that there are about 6 different versions of it at least. Now, a lot of these try and scam money out of you. They tell you they're going to expedite it, they're going to do certain things, they make it look like the official website. It is not. So do not go anywhere but the official Indonesian government website for your visa. I will put the details of that website below, and I'll also add it into the comment so you can go straight there and get it. Really important that you don't get ripped off. It's not fair, it's not right, but that's life. It happens. So make sure you use the right site for your Bali visa. On top of that, and it's not regularly enforced, is the Love Bali tax. It's around about $13 Australian at the moment. It's a tax that they use to improve the country. It is a mandatory requirement, but again, they don't really enforce it. So make sure you've got your visa on arrival in place. If you're really not computer savvy, you can do it at the airport. There is a queue that you can jump into and actually do it when you land. But it's so much easier to have that in place before you go. You just keep walking. And the last thing you need is your customs declaration. Now you can do this again online about 3 days out from when you land. Any earlier, it just won't work. So do your customs online and it's smooth sailing. You'll get a QR code, you show it on your phone, they zap it at immigration and off you go. They have really geared the airport up well for tourists these days. Tip number 3, vaccinations, inoculations and medications. If you've got any prescription medication, it's worth having a copy of that prescription, take your medication with you, maybe keep it in a separate bag, and just make sure that if it is a drug of addiction or could be construed as a drug of addiction, you've got a letter from your doctor. I offer this vaccination advice just as general advice. I'm not a medical practitioner by any means. However, there are things that I've come across that can help you. Try to get your vaccinations in place if you feel they're going to be beneficial to you. Your general practitioner is going to be the one that will give you the best advice on it. But a couple to consider are your hepatitis A and your typhoid. Typhoid particularly if you're travelling out into different areas that are maybe a little more remote. A couple of your more standard ones, make sure your tetanus is up to date. Whooping cough, diphtheria, those types of things, also important if you feel you're a little bit susceptible to those. And your influenza shot. Measles, mumps and rubella, it's probably one we've all had in Australia. Again, maybe just check if you haven't had it. Now there's a couple of others that are probably a little bit left of field. Interestingly, rabies is a big issue in Indonesia, particularly Bali. There's street dogs, there's monkeys. Now the last thing you want to do is get bitten by one of these. If you do, go and see a medical practitioner or go to the doctors. They do have anti-rabies shots. If you get rabies, it is a death sentence. You will die. There is no cure from it. But there is a preventative that you can get onto pretty quick. I would be getting it as quickly as possible. I haven't had the rabies inoculation, but I do know that if I get bitten, I'm going to run to the doctors pretty quickly. If you're going to a very remote area and it takes a long time to get medical care, it's probably worth looking into the rabies vaccination. If you're getting tattoos in Bali, it's probably worth also considering your hepatitis B vaccination. Another one worth thinking about, Japanese encephalitis, spread by mosquitoes. A couple of things that are also worth considering carrying. Travelan, it's worked very well for my wife in the past. It's about 30 bucks a box for 30 tablets. You take one tablet before meals and it does seem to assist with Bali belly. Doesn't mean you're not going to get it. Traveller's diarrhea is always a possibility, but it does work pretty well. Some Imodium tablets. You'd want to try to avoid taking them if you can, but if you really need them, shove a couple of those down. And even taking a bit of your Colt and probiotics before you travel and during your travel is well worthwhile. Tip number 4, money and banking. I don't really carry cash with me. I have a few small notes from previous trips, but I don't take any bulk Australian money to change over there. I am not that keen on money changes. There's too many stories about crooked ones for me. Now there's plenty of legitimate money changes in Bali. I just don't use them. I don't feel I have a need to. I travel with a Wise card and I use it basically exclusively in Bali. It is my go-to for cash and for paying for restaurants. I use it at ATMs, I use it to tap at restaurants, and it's never let me down. I've even got the digital version on my phone and it works absolutely perfectly. I am careful about the ATMs I select. Once I get to Bali airport and I come out into the arrivals hall, I usually grab some money there, maybe 2 or 3 million rupiah. Once I'm out in the streets, I'll look for reliable banks or good quality ATMs. I'm not going to go to some dodgy little backstreet ATM. I've never had a problem with skimming, and I'll touch wood on that, but I'm fairly careful about it and I don't take risks with my card. I've never been stuck not being able to get money, and that includes on Nusa Lembongan. There's always been access to cash. Now I will carry a little bit of reserve cash. I don't carry a lot, but I carry enough to get me by. So if you're thinking about traveling with a Wise card, I can assure you they are fantastic and they do work exceptionally well. I will leave a link to the Wise card down the bottom as well. If you do use money changes, watch them. They're pretty quick on the sleight of hand. They're the magic magicians with cash. So double check it and do not hand it back to them. Make sure you've got the right amount before you leave that shop. The big scam is they count it, they hand it to you to count, and then they touch it again. And when they touch it again, that's when they do the sleight of hand and drop a few notes under the counter. And you will see plenty of advice against giving the money back to the money counters once you've actually got it in your hand. If you've got it, you've got it. Also, try and work with the ones that are behind a nice closed glass, air-conditioned area. If you've got some dodgy little sign on the side of the road, you wouldn't use it in Australia, so don't use it overseas. Tip number 5, pack light. Everyone has a propensity to overpack. I've found with my travels, I just take carry-on. I'm past the point of carrying big suitcases around, lugging them through airports. I don't have to wait around for my bags. I grab my backpack and I go. There's plenty of availability of stuff over there, so if you do fall short of a pair of jocks or a t-shirt, just go buy some. They're as cheap as in Australia, and throw it away when you go if you have to. They will get you by. You'll be surprised how little you can actually get by with. On top of that, they have laundries, and the laundries charge about $1.50 to $2. So just put it in at the local laundry and off you go again. Keep it simple, keep it light, and you'll find you won't need all the stuff you take. If you do regularly pack heavy, take a look next time you come home and go, what did I actually use? And I guarantee 2/3 of what you put in that suitcase stayed in that suitcase and all you did was carry it around the world. Tip number 6, set realistic expectations. Bali's hot. Some days it is stinking hot. Be smart about what you do, plan your days out, don't try and load too much into them, and have fun. It might be an early morning walk. Particularly in Sanur, I'll go for a walk along the beach path. I get up pretty early, usually go about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'll go for a 6K walk. Then I'll have a nice breakfast and start the chill for the day. If we're planning to go somewhere, I won't try and cram about 6 things into one day. I'm getting older now, so I take it a bit easier and enjoy the travel. Now that doesn't mean that I sit around by the pool and do nothing, but I set realistic expectations. It is more fatiguing being in Bali. The additional stress of the heat actually slows us down a bit, particularly as we get older. So be sensible about what you do. Drink plenty of water, stay hydrated, stay out of the midday sun. What do they say? Mad dogs and Englishmen? Don't do that. Keep yourself under shade, wear your sunscreen and enjoy your day. If you're planning a couple of day trips, be sensible about how much you cram into the day. A lot of drivers will say, oh, let's go for a 10-hour day. And that's wonderful, but I guarantee you're absolutely exhausted by the time you get home. And not only you, sometimes you've got to watch the drivers. I've had to tap a few of them on the back of the seat because they've started to fall asleep. They're having the same long day. And although they'll sleep while you're in at the attraction, they still get fatigued. If you try to plan more than an 8-hour day, you've probably packed too much into your day. And by the time you get to your last activity, it's probably going to be exhausting. You're not going to enjoy it, and you're not really going to take in what you wanted to see anyway. So plan maybe 1, maximum of 3 things out for the day, and go and actually take the time to enjoy it. Rather than rushing around from area to area and feeling you're on a time constraint, use a little bit of Bali time, jam kata, which basically means rubber time. Have fun. There's no need to rush, you're on holidays. So in closing out the video, Bali's a great spot to visit, and you can do it so much easier on yourself. Think about your planning before you go, have your visas in line, think about how you're getting your money, plan out your activities, watch those money scammers, and just enjoy your time over there. Bali's a great place for a holiday, and a little bit of pre-planning makes a trip even more enjoyable. Head over there and have fun.